Good evening, folks. Jamie McIntyre here on behalf of the Australian National Review, ANRnews.com, one of the few sources of independent media in Australia and globally. So check us out if you haven't been following us before. Tonight's episode, I want to talk to you about, of course, the upcoming US election, less than 48 hours away now, till we get to see who will be the next president of the United States of America. It seems like deja vu with all the polls predicting, like last time, that when they said Hillary Clinton had it won in the bag, they're saying Joe Biden has it won in the bag. But I think we've learned a lot in the last 4 years. One, that most of the mainstream media is fake news, and guess what? They also own fake polls. Why would anyone even listen to what the polls are saying after they lost all credibility last US election, when they told us Hillary Clinton was going to win? In Australia, they also told us Bill Shorten was going to win. Clearly not the case. They get it wrong around the world. Why? Because I think we figured out that it's not just fake news. They're manufacturing the news. They don't tell the news. They're trying to manipulate the people into thinking that Biden or Clinton was going to win, and therefore you should vote for them, because the people they appeal to are people that are actually worried about what other people think of them. And that's why I'm going to talk to you tonight about a couple of topics about the US election, who I think will win, and who we need to win, I guess, if you believe in the future of humanity. I want to talk to you a little bit about also tonight, why is it that seemingly intelligent people hate Trump, and some of those can't get themselves to vote for, say, Trump, yet will support someone or a party that if they truly knew the truth about, they would never support. So why is it that happens? You want to look at that way, because I have some friends, and you no doubt you do too, they just don't understand why some people would vote for Trump or would support Trump. And it's particularly a lot of people that don't even like Trump. See, Trump has the ability, and we'll talk about it tonight, that people detest his personality and don't even like the guy. They won't even think he's an idiot. But guess what? They're smart enough to be mature adults and go, well, hang on a minute, we should be voting on policies. Is that true? And we look at the policies. I'm not sure how anyone that can claim to be intelligent could support the policies of the far left Marxism, communism party that's taken over the Democrats. But we'll talk about that tonight. I also put up a $10 million challenge myself. I bet you don't get any news presenters out there. They'll put even up $100 to back what they're actually saying to be true. But some of you know that I put up a $1 million challenge to say that the COVID deaths are inflated. I put that up several months ago to any media outlet in Australia or any politician in Australia to prove me wrong that the COVID deaths weren't inflated. Since then, of course, we've had plenty of evidence that they have been inflated. But because of this COVID fraud is still going on, Jamie, how can you call it COVID fraud? Well, clearly it's a falsified pandemic. True, under true definitions in 2010 of the World Health Organization, this would not qualify as a pandemic. I guess that's why Billy Boy Gates, who controls WHO in partnership with his Chinese communist partners, had the definition changed. Because if you look up the European Parliament, a motion put through the European Parliament in 2010, they said the drug companies, vaccine makers, have dangerous levels of influence over, guess who? The World Health Organization. And they'd got caught out trying to hype a normal flu strain out of South America into a global pandemic. They got caught out. So that's why they had the definition changed of a pandemic, because of two reasons. One, when they tried this little scam again, which happened to be 2020. Why 2020? Coincidentally, it's a US election year. Never would the Democrats be so devious, and these people that wish to run the world in the way that they want to shape it, and they dictate every aspect of your life, would come up with a scam such as COVID to try and sway the election. But think about it. The highest deaths in America appear to be in the Democratic states. Go figure. You maybe get run over by a semi-trailer. No, you didn't. You died of COVID because you live in a Democratic state. 100,000 people a day testing positive in the US. I mean, if you believe the left-wing fake mainstream media and their fake polls, of course you believe that. But come on, folks. We know it's simply not true. It's propaganda. Left-wing Marxism, crazy left-wing extreme left-wing nutcases, I would call them, but without being too political. But we know that to be true. They believe in Marxism, communism, socialism, and they think that you should live under that rule. But they're talking in America. Like, really, come on. America is a great capitalist nation, and I'm not here to say capitalism is the best, but I think capitalism combined with some compassionism would work quite well. It's crony capitalism that is not working well. And there's the socialists criticize capitalism. It's like, no, you're criticizing crony capitalism because most communists, same people, same ideology, love crony capitalism because they can't never worked a day in their life, never worked a real job, can't start a business and make real money. That's why they don't care about destroying. They usually end up politicians or people that work for the government and don't really actually employed by the government, not necessarily work by the government. They don't really know how to make money. So they're happy just to get free money from the government. That's crony capitalism. Rot the taxpayer, which leads me to the point. The reason they had the definitions changed is once something is deemed a pandemic, folks, if you're not aware of this, there's pre-existing contracts with drug companies, vaccine makers, that means all the world governments that are members of WHO, which most of the governments, including Australia, have to hand over tens of billions of dollars to these fraudsters in the form of medical supplies, drugs, grants for vaccines, blah, 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 you name it. And so why most folk are still figuring out who should I vote for? Is this COVID a scam? Something just doesn't add up. You've been scammed tens or hundreds of billions of dollars. And guess what? Bill Gates, who is self-appointing himself as the global health minister and global president of the new one world government, known as World Health Organization, which under Emergency Act powers is dictating around the world, including the states and Australia, that they've overstepped the federal powers that we have and dictating to you that you can't even leave your house. You can't even go 5 kilometers away or 25 kilometers away. You have to wear a face cloth that's damaging to your health across your mouth because they say so, So the World Health Organization under emergency powers is effectively a one world government, and get used to that because that's what they have planned more of. So Billy Boy Gates, who the president of the World Health Organization has been on the payroll for Bill Gates, basically pretty much a lot of people on the payroll. Did you know Victorian Health Minister Brett Sutton didn't disclose his financial conflicts of interest with Bill Gates, works for Bill Gates funded institute? Shouldn't you tell us that? So who's he answering to, really? How many more non-disclosures of conflicts of interest have come out? Did you know that the funding behind the Neil Ferguson Imperial College modeling that set their lockdowns in the first place in mid-March was from Bill Gates funded deliberately fraudulent modeling, which they redacted a few days later, but only after all the governments had committed economic suicide, which has led to people committing suicide, led to people not getting proper access to health, to the hospital for treatment of cancers and other things, because the hospitals were all shut off for elective surgery because this pandemic was coming, right? The hospitals were going to be overrun. Hospitals didn't get overrun, notice? Not too many people are dying. I mean, if it's a real pandemic, why would you need to fake so many deaths? Why would you need to reclassify flu deaths? Latest article, can you believe? 98% mainstream media is reporting flu cases in 2020 are down by 98%. Oh, wow. I just wonder why. Well, I guess if you reclassify flu deaths as COVID deaths, because what is a COVID? You haven't figured out the fraud. That's why I put up $10 million on video. You can see before this I posted. If you have any friends out there that still don't realize that COVID is a fraud, and there's many out there, there's enough to re-elect the Queensland Premier, Labor, which those from overseas listening, Labor in Australia is pretty much like Democrats, a lost party and has no morals and heavily corrupted. Not that they have the monopoly on corruption, by the way. Our two-party system is heavily corrupt, and that's why we need political change in this country and in America and in England and in the world, which I advocated many years ago, and I still advocate. And that's what we will get if a certain president is elected, or should I say re-elected. You're not going to get that is sleepy, creepy Joe Biden. And I hate to be political here, but I just have to read it how it is. So anyhow, let's talk about very quickly $10 million challenge. I talked about that and watched the previous video about that. So any naysayer, just say, look, if you don't believe COVID's a fraud, take the bet, put up or shut up. If you don't think what I'm talking about has any truth to it, well, I have conviction behind my words. That's why I put my money behind my mouth. Unfortunately, you won't hear too many other people do that because they're full of, I won't swear on this episode, I promise, but you can fill in the blanks. They're full of you know what. Okay, so let's start on why some seemingly intelligent people can't bring themselves to vote for Trump, even though Trump's policies are actually very good for the world in comparison to sleepy, creepy Joe Biden. So the reality is, here's what's happened, is that most people went to school. School is a propaganda machine, and school and university. So what happens is that the people that have more degrees on the wall often are the ones that are most manipulated and give the power to the enemy of the free world, and they don't even realize it. So for 3 reasons. One, these people that bought the lie the myth that formal education is the only key to success. Spent a lot of time at uni. Now, I went to uni, but I did drop out of uni. That's probably how I become a successful self-made millionaire in my 20s. If I completed uni, I would have had a lot more damage done to my brain, would have been brainwashed and propagandized more, and would have had less ability to think for myself and read bullshit, have common sense, and all these skills that are required to be successful in business or investing or in life. So my point being, why there's a lot of seemingly educated people that just can't get themselves to vote for Trump or just won't support Trump even though they're not in America and don't get a vote, is because they think Trump's an idiot. Now, why do they think Trump's an idiot? Well, it's true, Trump, his delivery style can come off. Maybe some people could say, well, he's an idiot, but it's probably more to do with the fact, is Trump really an idiot? Well, if he is, he's a very smart idiot, and he makes idiots of those who actually think he's an idiot. So if we looked in the mirror and go, no, there's no perfect human, but is Trump really an idiot? Well, he's a self-made billionaire, done it by building very successful business in property development, been successful in many industries as far as TV, and he's probably, I don't see he could argue, pulled off one of the greatest political wins of human history by winning the 2016 US presidential election. And he did that by no real party endorsement. He basically, he could be, Democratic or Republican, he wouldn't care because it's these policies that really count. So we can see him idiot, but a few of the reasons why some people seemingly intelligent think he's an idiot is one, they watch mainstream media, which out of the 5 of the top 6 corporations that own most of the media in the world are predominantly left-wing. There's only one that's right-wing or conservative, and that's Murdoch. Now, I don't particularly like Murdoch's stance on vaccinations, but I must give him acknowledgement for supporting the conservative side of politics. Because what you've got to look at in the world, and let's say Australia as an example, the majority of voters in Australia are centre-right. Makes sense? Most people around the centre, but centre-right. Same would be the case in America and in England and most countries in the world, unless they're communist countries. And in the communist countries, well, they're too broke and destroyed and living in poverty to really be able, and they don't actually get to vote. So if the majority of the population is centre-right, conservative supporters of politics, then how come most of the media is so far left? Even in Australia, even the government funded by taxpayers, most people sit here like centre-right taxpayers, yet our ABC funded, national funded, would you say it's a BBC in America, in England, is actually so far over here, extreme left Marxism, yet it's meant to represent the majority of Australians, which is over here. Isn't it interesting? So what we see is that the majority of people are here, but the majority of mainstream media is so far over here. That's why they have fake news. They try and lie and manipulate to make out that people actually think the extreme left, this is how most people think. But we know that's not true. They tried to tell us Hillary Clinton was going to win, but clearly she didn't. And they're still trying to figure out how can people vote for Trump. So if you don't understand why people vote for Trump, let me give you a few reasons why. First of all, we're adults. We're no longer kids. This is not a personality contest. Yes, if you want to vote on personality, Trump might not win a personality contest. Why? Because he doesn't give up what you think of him. He's a true leader. True leaders don't give a what you think of them. Does it make sense? Only weak humans are worried what other people think, which is why a lot of people with more degrees than brains tend to vote for the left. No offense if you went to uni or degrees, nothing wrong with that. But if you think that academia equals intelligence, then you're sadly mistaken. You've been manipulated and lied to, and you bought the lie. It's a lie of the left. Does it make sense? If you bought that lie, you're more likely to buy the other lies sold to you, thinking that news in Australia, England, America is news, when it's clearly propaganda. The Chinese figured that out, right? Chinese citizens know their news is propaganda. But they're bemused why Americans or Australians or English and other people, Westerners, think their news is actually news. Like, come on, it's propaganda. Are we not that smart? Not to figure that out? Clearly not. So a lot of so-called intelligent people end up voting, will vote or support Joe Biden for a couple of reasons. One, they can't stand Trump. So the Democrats think, put any moron up. Enough people hate Trump and we'll win. Really pretty dumb strategy. I mean, they put up a weekend of Bernie's in sleepy, creepy Joe Biden, but the guy has dementia and is senile, not to mention that he's a pedophile as well. His family's corrupt. He's a criminal organization. He's received over $300 million into, deals. $300 million. Where's that money come from? We know where it's come from. Certain laptops expose a lot of it. dodgy deals. So this is why Trump was elected. Another reason to drain this swamp of corrupt criminals. See, crony capitalists gravitate towards the left. They're people that they go, Al Gore's of the world, come up with a global warming scam and become a billionaire. He couldn't become a billionaire through business in his own way because he doesn't have the brains or the ability to do that. See, these people on the extreme left think they're smarter than others because they got more degrees on the wall. They bought that lie, so they're easily fed and buy other lies fed by left-wing mainstream media. Makes sense? So not to offend some people, but hey, I don't care if you don't like me. It's part of the left PC culture, political correct culture. Oh, that's offensive. Well, because if you're offended by some words, or you need to toughen up, it's not political correctness, it's censorship. It's part of the left. See, here's how the left works. Think Trotsky, communist, right? They attack the person, not the policy. That's why they make out Trump as an idiot. So they edit him to make him out look an idiot. Now, admittedly, Trump can make himself look like an idiot, but with all the edits, so most people have never seen Trump's full speeches. If you listen to Trump's speeches delivered to the UN and these other speeches, they're actually very motivational, actually very good speeches. See, Trump, if we criticize him, you don't have to like Trump. But is he an effective leader? Whether you like him or not, he's a very effective leader. Probably will go down in history one of the greatest presidents of the United States. I know some of the left will vomit at that, but you'll vomit because you think Joe Biden is a great candidate. I mean, Joe Biden can't string a sentence together. So the left is attacking only shows, trying to make out the flaws of Trump, yet they'll hide and lie to you about Joe Biden. Man, have you seen Joe Biden try and speak? The guy, I'm not going to go easy on him because he's not from a very good family. As far as himself, it's a criminal family. Because, of course, that's why they put him up as a Democrat nominee. The Clintons were criminal as well. Obama was criminal as well. Tulsi Gabbard, some of the good people in the Democrats. Not a hope in hell they haven't becoming nominees, you know what I'm saying? It's not about, these are some quality women in politics. Candace Owens on the right, Tulsi Gabbard on the left. See, I can support people that are good people, they'd be great candidates, whether they're either side of politics, So you can't say it's political, it's being political, or it's against women or anything. It's like there's quality candidates. We should focus on their policies and who they are as their ability to speak the truth. So that's another reason why Trump got elected. Because whether you like him or not, when he says something, he means it. And he says that he's going to make America great again. He actually believes that. He's not selling a lie. He's not trying to be popular. See, most politicians will tell you what you want to hear. Clinton, anything she says, would you really believe it? And Joe Biden, he's had 47 years in politics to do something. If he was going to do something, I'm sure he would have done it by now. Do you know what I'm saying? So the left, extreme left, want to blame capitalism for all the ills, but the problems with capitalism is mainly crony capitalism, which is extreme left people like the Al Gores, the Bill Gates now that want to rip off $301 billion in taxpayers' money who has called for, from world governments to fight the coronavirus, which is just a fraud. Come on, if you haven't figured out corona, I will tell you how it is. See, a lot of even Sky News won't admit that, say it publicly, it's a fraud. I'm telling you, COVID is a fraud. $10 million, if you can prove me wrong, take it up, So, but see, the left, the people that are most manipulated seem most educated, but having more degrees, academia does not equal intelligence. So when it comes to politics, they can't see the bullshit. But also the other reason why they're not game to vote for Trump, because they're worried what their peers will think. So a lot of doctors or lawyers or professionals who got a lot of degrees, they're so worried what other people think. That's why they went, did all of the career path they did, because it's all about social status, you see. Social status. So they're scared. See, I learned to be an entrepreneur, you have to have thick skin. To make it, to be really successful, you have to be very authentic and genuine and not give a damn what other people think. If you want to worry what other people think, it means you have a weakness. It's like you're looking for external validation, and if you can't validate yourself from within, the world's not going to be very nice to you, okay? So there's some of the things I want to talk to you. Now, the other thing what's my prediction of what's going to happen in the US election? It's very interesting. Of course, you at least listen to the polls. Biden's already got in the bag, but I'm betting that actually Trump will win. It could be close, in the sense that the thing that the Democrats have in their favor is COVID fear. There's enough people that are simply not educated enough and still think they're going to die of COVID, even though if you're in a high-risk age bracket in America, the latest studies have come out that you only have a 1 in 19.4 million chance of dying of COVID if you're in a high risk bracket, 50 to 64 age group. If you're healthy in a low risk bracket, my God, you have more chance of getting hit with hail on your head and dying, or struck by lightning. You have a 1 in 114 chance of dying in a car accident in America. And people are worried about COVID. I mean, 100,000 tests a day. The tests are fake. They're fraudulent. Notice how the tests are higher in Democratic states. Notice how the COVID deaths are inflated in Democratic states. Notice in Australia, Democratic state, or Labor, Democrats, effectively. In Victoria is the communist state, the worst suppression. This is a politicized virus, and the political agenda behind this virus, folks, is way more deadly than the actual virus. Actually, I dare someone to try and die of COVID. Actual real COVID. Be very hard to do, folks. Very hard to do. Unless, of course, you've got terminal cancer, you're already dying, have 3 heart attacks, and someone shoots you in the head. Of course, then you'll die of COVID. But come on, I'm not taking the piss. I'm not saying some people haven't died, but what have they died of? They couldn't die of COVID because they haven't even isolated COVID, and they can't even have an accurate test to know it's COVID. But then again, they can classify it as COVID because Gates and Fauci, who are behind this scam, and George Soros, etc., they cut their teeth on the AIDS scam, where not that AIDS didn't kill people, but to make it a global pandemic, and once again, rape and taxpayers' money, crony capitalism, is they just expanded the definition of what you could die from, classified as AIDS, so the graph would keep on going up, look like a pandemic. Wow. This scam's been tried before. Check out YouTube, 60 Minutes investigation, swine flu 1976, where they did the same thing, told everyone was going to die of the swine flu. It never happened, but they forcibly vaccinated everyone, which they're planning to do next year. So vote for Joe Biden if you want, and you'll be forcibly vaccinated. If you stand for make America great, then of course you know who you need to vote for. If you stand for Antifa in the violence they're going to start, and they're going to try and start civil war in America when Trump wins this election, it's going to get dangerous. So I'm glad Americans have guns to defend themselves. Australians don't, Kiwis don't. We don't have the ability to defend ourselves against oppressive governments or the oppressive extreme left-wing extremists that are behind Antifa. George Soros is behind Antifa, just like he's behind the Black Lives Matter. It's a scam, folks. George Soros is on his deathbed. He's getting close to dying. Leave sooner, George Soros. Go. We don't need you any here. You're going to leave a disgusting legacy. You're a traitor to your own people, let alone to America. You've even publicly stated you want China to run the world, and you're embedded with China, of course, as the Democrats are. Even John F. Kennedy's son, before he died years ago, said the Democrats have sold themselves to China. Labor has in Australia. Did you notice that as well? So interesting, because they have a lot in common. Socialist is a nice word for communism, totalitarianism. So if we don't, it's a very critical election result. If Trump loses, folks, the world is in a lot of bother. Now, this is not about whether you like Trump or not, but we are in a lot of bother. Prepare for war. Now, Trump wins, the Antifa is going to try and create war and create, because it's the last throw of the dice before all these criminals go to jail. So there's a lot at stake. So I'm sorry if I offend you, but those who will vote for Joe Biden, unfortunately, you're going to realize in the future and realizing, why did I do that? If I had known the truth, I would have never done that. So don't make that mistake. So if you can't get yourself in America, I know 30% of my followers and A&R followers are from America, another 30-odd% are from the rest of the world, and 30-odd% from Australia. But if you can't get yourself to vote for Donald Trump for whatever reasons, that's your choice. Just don't vote for the Democrats. Just don't vote an independent, or simply don't vote. For your own benefit, because you're going to regret voting for Joe Biden when you find out the truth. If you haven't done your research, don't know the truth, then just simply don't vote. Go, look, I don't know enough, I choose not to vote. Or if you go on policy, go and look at the policies. And of course you're going to vote for Trump, even if you hate him. So that's why also the polls don't pick up things too, because a lot of people are silent voters. They're not going to say who they're voting for, because the political correctness of the extreme left will attack you if you're a Trump supporter. Oh, you're an idiot. Like, really? Come on. Bring it on. I'll debate you anytime, you extreme left-wing nutcases. Most of the people sit center-right, around the center of politics, center-right. Yet there's extreme left, mainstream media, etc. is trying to hijack George Soros, Gates, all these morons They think they know best. So it's a scary world that's coming. Mandatory vaccinations. Detention centers they're building right now to put people in. Until you agree to take the mandatory vaccination, they've already passed laws in Australia and other countries. They can take your children at school next year and put them in a detention camp, quarantine camp, and vaccinate them without informing you where they are. They can come around and forcibly vaccinate you. So if you want to be jabbed with Billy Gates' dangerous and deadly vaccine next year, not just one, there'll be many of them, never be able to fly again unless you get the jab. See, I'm not, people go, you're an anti-vaxxer, Jamie. No, I'm not. I'm just not a pro-drug pusher on innocent children. I don't push dangerous and untested drugs, i.e. vaccines, on elderly or kids. You know, I think that's pathetic. So if you're a pro-vax, you realize what you are? You're a pro-drug pusher. And an unpaid one, most of those who are, for Big Pharma. Wow, must be something to be proud of. But even saying that, pro-vaxxers, even people that did, are certainly not for mandatory vaccination. So I say to politicians around the world, including in Australia, if you support mandatory vaccinations, or if you don't stand up and say we will not support mandatory vaccinations or anything that resembles mandatory, then you're a traitor to our country, you're a traitor to the people, and it's called treason. And when the new political system comes into place and the new financial system, those who have committed treason, we will remember you. And treason is in America could get the death penalty. In Australia, we don't have the death penalty yet, but you'll certainly be sent to jail. So think about our politicians. If you're so convinced what you're saying is true, and that pay package you're getting from pharmaceutical industries to push and lobby, you work for the taxpayers, so start working for them. We don't want you working for vaccine makers. For you to work for a vaccine maker means you are a criminal. You just push mandatory vaccinations or anything like that, you are a criminal. Remember that. Don't try and lie, because we know who you are and we're coming after you. You will go to jail because you're a traitor to our country. So folks, that's my wrap up for tonight. Got to go. Yes, we will be releasing our broadcast shows for A&R shortly. The McIntyre Report is getting ready to be released, and we have some great female presenters as well, preparing from some political host shows coming up. So yes, we appreciate your support. We're not for profit, so we do need donations to be able to bring independent media to you, to be able to defend our democracies or what's left of it, and to be able to expose the fraudsters in our government, such as Dan Andrews in Victoria and Australia, and the Joe Bidens and Hillary Clintons, and the extreme left Marxist socialist communists with their propaganda machines, which is majority, 90% of the mainstream media, lying to you. Don't fall for their lies, folks. If you're a really intelligent person, figure it out. And the way you vote will determine how intelligent you are, because if you vote for criminal families, then that's not that smart. It's a threat to humanity. Talk to you soon.